Keith, thanks for taking the time to hang out. It is currently 7:30 on a Wednesday evening.
No, exactly.
I know it's
Yeah.
getting close to your bedtime, so I appreciate
Yeah. Nothing to wake up to. Yeah.
it. Keith and I just enjoyed some awesome tacos and sipping on some tea. Let's start with the icebreaker. I always try to relate the icebreaker to the episode content.
Mm.
And I thought of this because in our initial phone interview, you talked about what your personality was like when you're in high school. I don't know if you remember. So my icebreaker today is, Keith, what role would you say you played in your high school ecosystem? And what I mean by that is, were you the popular person? Were you the least popular person? Somewhere in the middle? Were you on the D&D club? Were you the athlete that was kind of nerdy? There are a lot of options out there.
Okay. Okay, kind of like, are you a goth or a skater or a cholo? I was kind of like a chameleon,
Okay.
the social butterfly. But the one that was kind of like shy and awkward, but I guess I would overcome the inward shyness and then just kind of do the thing of just engaging, a group of people. And Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think I knew some cholos. I think like freshman year of high school. I earned the nickname Slinky by the way I played basketball. They'd be like, "Hey, Slinky!" Yeah, I miss that guy. I don't know where he is right now, or I forget his name. But I think if I were to categorize one, I'd probably be mostly a jock nerd. So I hung
Okay.
out with the football players and who were also academic.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I've had my mixing with like the skater people. I brought my hacky sack, and even my jock nerds would play hacky sack with me.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, some lunches I'd kind of alternate. Like, oh, I'll go hang out with let's hang out with this group of people who are just kind of 1 year younger than me, and they're kind of next to our circle.
Okay.
Hung out with them. And Yeah, I probably had a crush on a couple of the girls in that group. so
No, no spoilers though. We're getting there.
oh yeah, okay. What else? Yeah, jock nerd and yeah, or just the nerds. I'd wake up early in the morning and get to school early and play a couple rounds of Magic, do some trades. If you
Nice.
guys know Magic the Gathering, yeah, I think that's where I would categorize myself.
Is the jock part of that because you played on an actual team at school?
Right, yeah, I played volleyball and track. Track
Okay,
was my secondary sport.
gotcha.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you were active on the basketball court.
Oh, in the volleyball. Oh, basketball. We played basketball too. But yeah, I played volleyball primarily as my sport. But basketball, yeah, we play a lot during lunch or during the week.
Were you a standout student, like straight A's? That was pretty much what people expected.
Well, I guess I was kind of like maybe the nerd who did okay in school. I
Okay,
got like graduated with a 2.71 GPA. So, a B and C student, occasional A.
gotcha. Because one thing that I guess one way I've begun to categorize nerds in my head
Mm,
is now you have nerds, but they're video game nerds,
right.
which some might argue aren't even nerds anymore because they call it esports.
Mm,
Um, so I feel like the what nerd was considered in the 90s is completely different now.
right. Yeah, it's become cool now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one way to put it.
Mhm.
A lot of things that are stereotypically nerdy, I feel like have become cool.
Yeah.
Um, I'd say when I got braces, which was in 2012, by that time, I mean everyone had braces. It was
Yeah.
just normal.
Mm.
Nobody, nobody. I can't think of any nicknames people would call kids or braces, but and I was never called four eyes or anything like that.
Mhm.
So, it sounds like you found the good middle ground where you
Right.
could,
Yeah.
like you said, be that chameleon in
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
groups.
I was also like friends with my sister's group of friends. Yeah. And sometimes these groups even had like conflicts with each other, and then like, but I'd still hang out and wouldn't stop me. So,
I'm looking forward to today's topic. because I knew eventually someone would bring it up, and you were the first. The topic being relationships and romance. I'll let you go. What is your I used to think statement?
All right, as rehearsed. So it is. I used to think that you had to be a nice guy to find love. Now I think you just ought to be a good guy and find love.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Let's start with, and the reason I asked that icebreaker, good guy, nice guy. How would you categorize yourself starting high school, which I think is when a lot of people start finding interest in somebody or watching romantic movies? Where would you put yourself?
um, yeah, I had a crush on every girl in high school. It goes as early as back as kindergarten. But let's focus on high school. So yeah, just trying to the basic um what do you call it, male need back in high school to just oh, find a girlfriend. Everyone's pairing up here and there, and oh, there's a breakup last week, and now this girl's single. um so wait, what was the question again?
Would you categorize yourself as the good guy or nice guy in high school?
Oh, okay, yeah, I was the nice guy in high school, because yeah, I thought you just had to sacrifice a lot and basically put yourself in a subservient position to win the girl over, which today is called simping. So I thought simping was the way to do it.
Simping before it was identified, it was categorized.
Right, yeah, I didn't know what simping was. um, yeah, that was my strategy because I guess not strategy, but that was just my mode of being like, oh, it made sense to me. You ought to be best friends with your lover. There's a lot of truth in that. And so it's like, oh, become best friends, with this girl I have a crush on, and talk late at night. And I would think that's like, oh, we're something's going on between us, and then but nothing would ever happen, nor would I make any moves. I'm like, oh, I guess eventually she'll just fall in love with me or something, So that was kind of, yeah, my way in high school.
Did you think this strategy, or however you want to call it,
Yeah.
was a result of movies, just your personality? Looking
Hmm.
back, what did you think that was from?
Um, I think, I mean, yeah, I think there's always a subconscious influence from like, movies and pop culture, and um, yeah, that's kind of something to really dissect. Don't really know, but yeah, I would, or maybe I saw a problem with like, the bad guys winning the good girl. It's like
Mm, mm.
maybe I have some kind of complex versus like, oh, that it ought not to be that way. Your true lover is the good guy or something. So maybe there was some kind of opposition to like, people or manipulative and abusive men that I would see girls fall in love with in high school.
So kind of trying to swing on the other end of the spectrum.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Um, did you date in high school?
Um, Not at all. I just had a lot of longtime crushes. I didn't have my first girlfriend until I was age 28. Um, so yeah, that mindset or mode of being just continued that long. Any close ones? I mean, I'm sure like I could have turned some friendships into like, a relationship, but I don't think I had the social awareness to do so. The basic assumption that like you just you never tell the girl you like them, and then what would often happen is like they find like a boyfriend like while I'm friends with them, and then
Okay.
I'm just totally destroyed by it. Yeah, devastated. Yeah.
Yeah, completely blindsided, yet
Mhm.
this entire time you had a chance kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah. I think even in middle school, I think the popular girl of the time had a crush on me or liked me. And like I even like got her number when I visited her like at her high school orientation at another high school that she was going to. And I never called her back because it's just I think you're just so shy, or you had this great fear of rejection, or
Yeah,
um, yeah, I mean, it could be a number of things, just anxiety, you know, things going, being rejected by the popular girl or something.
right.
So, yeah.
I want to kind of expand on this idea of nice guy because when when you brought up your initial idea for the podcast, I had so many of my own experiences that I felt like I could relate to, stuff that you were telling me about that I thought, oh my goodness, me too. So kind of digging into like more what is a nice guy for you, looking back at high school Keith, what was it that kept you from taking that next step, right? You're really good friends with this girl. You're pretty much in a prime position that if
Mhm.
you asked her out on a date or even professed your love, like you'd have a pretty good chance. Like
Mhm.
what was it that kept you from taking that next step?
Gee, I want to guess it was fear of rejection or fear of even like ruining the relationship that you
Mm.
spent so much time and effort to build. Um, so yeah, yeah, it goes back to that fear of rejection, I would say.
So I'll bring up where I first really heard the term nice guy, and it was in a book by a Christian author named Michael Cusick.
Mm.
He's written a lot about dating relationships and then specifically men and how pornography has affected our view of
Oh
relationships and
yeah,
sexuality,
right,
which is a huge topic in and of itself.
right.
And his version of nice guy, he called the safe guy.
Mm.
And so for him growing up, for Michael, he was the safe guy. And so he knew that he was the type of guy in school where girls would feel comfortable talking with,
Right.
disclosing things with, opening up to,
Approachable.
right, approachable,
Yeah.
safe, friendly. I thought safe was actually a really good way of describing it.
Right.
And he would essentially have all these female friends that could fill up the desire for female affirmation, but like you're saying, never take the next step,
Mm.
which is risk, because I believe love is
Risk. Yeah.
risk
Mm.
and that fear of rejection.
Mm.
And so your story as well as Michael's is something I completely relate to. Looking back now, and it's not that long ago for me,
Yeah.
even I was very much the safe guy.
Yeah.
And it was a terrible position to be in because I see now that could only have lasted for so long. And like you're saying, you're that girl is bound to start dating someone else. Maybe she is actively waiting and nothing ever happens. And so she just moves on. But I was strangely comforted over our phone call when you were like, yeah, I think being the nice guy is actually a terrible place to be. And I was like, that is exactly what I felt in high school.
Yeah.
I'll bring up some notes that you brought up during our call, but you told a really interesting story about how you kind of buckled down and started figuring out what it looked like to date.
The red pill moment.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, your
Yeah.
Matrix moment.
Matrix. Yeah, I literally did go into the matrix of the internet. And that was like, a developing thing when I was in, middle of college. Well, it was already well developed, but I guess, yeah, just tapping into it. Yeah, should I just begin the red pill story?
Go for it.
Yeah, so yeah, I just Googled one day. I was just tired of being friend zoned. It was probably after a devastating 7 year long crush.
Oh wow,
Um,
that's long.
yeah, it was like an odyssey, right? So I met this girl at a party, and she was my church friend's friend, and so she lived miles away, and you can't get anywhere when you're in high school. Within biking distance, this girl lived like 25 miles away, And
Might as well be the other side of the country.
yeah, might as well be a light year. Yeah. So we just like talked on AIM. We got each other's SNs, AOL, for all you listeners. Um, yeah, so got her SN, and we just talked for like 10 months straight, even, and beyond that too. And I was 10th grade at the time, and then we just talked all the way through in our high school years. We gave each other little gifts through our mutual friend as the little deliverer. And when she reached college, she got a boyfriend, and I was devastated. And then I kind of like was still friends with her, and even saw her with her boyfriend and went to events with them. So
Okay.
and
Oh,
then
that's
like
rough.
and then they finally break up, and I'm like, oh my goodness. It's like, oh man, it's like, it was my chance. So yeah, I just finally told her that I liked her. I think I told her I liked her before, like before she went to college, but then like I think I instantly like turned off my computer right when I hit enter and said like I like you, and then I don't know what happened after
Straight out of
that.
straight out of an early 2000s movie.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. So she broke with her boyfriend, and then finally went to her house. I had this big plan to tell her at the end of the day, like, okay, I like you, and then she, also confessed that she, wanted just to be friends with me. So that was kind of devastating. So I awkwardly like
Oh,
put
so
my,
she friend zoned you.
yeah, I got friend zoned. And that was just like, I had like dreams of like all this like rejection and not seeing her
Oh
again.
man.
And yeah, so yeah, this was, someone I crushed over for 7 years. And so that was kind of like the catalyst for the red pill
Okay,
movement of
that makes
entering the
sense.
matrix.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I searched up the internet, Google, how do I get out of the friend zone? And you have like 50 websites to choose from. So there was a website, and it's like I think it was like an underground like pickup artist like a kind of website or community. And I'm just reading the articles. A lot of them are you know like I avoid all the ones that are like, oh, one night stand and whatever. So I went to the ones that says like, okay, how to talk to women, how to ask them out on a date and that kind of stuff, because it's like a jungle out there. And yeah, again, it's like um, yeah, it's a very it can be a very sociopathic what do you call it, field of knowledge, right? Because people could use these behaviors and knowledge in a very manipulative way, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'm a Christian, so I was able to sift out all of the ones that are kind of like, okay, I don't want like this one night stand stuff, and so yeah, so I discovered some people on YouTube as well to kind of like supplement my knowledge on this like general social awareness. um yeah, so 20 ways to talk to someone you're dating, or just talk to women in general. And it also kind of shaded into like business and marketing, and your vocational life, or just talking to strangers. And it's like, oh, these are really great principles. And so it was also a journey of just self-development,
Hmm.
in a way. So yeah, I mean, these articles, that even went down to like eye contact game, or how to talk to someone at the gym, and it's crazy how like they break down into all these details. And so there's like the technical and behavioral, I guess, what do you call it, like topics or field of knowledge, and then you have like the overarching principles that all these behaviors are kind of umbrellaed under, right? So it's like the whole eye contact thing. It's like obviously, it's really creepy if you stare at someone, your crush, in the classroom, right? Your crush is gonna notice. And so this article said like, okay, you just you need to like not look at her. You have to like, move in a way where, she looks at you and then you look at her next as a reaction.
Wow, this is very detailed.
So it's like very detailed. Yeah.
So you
So
internalized all this.
yeah, but I also because there's a danger of unearned wisdom because today's game changing epiphany will become tomorrow's gimmicky crutch, so you can't like overdo it. So there's like principles like being
Did
a
you just
man.
make that up?
No, that was something from the article.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a pretty good line.
Pretty good articulated line. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, a lot of these little phrases and things just kind of internalize like freedom of outcome. So, when you're interacting with like, someone who you're interested in, you ought to have like freedom of outcome. And there was another phrase before that. It was like, it's outcome independence, but yet you're fully engaged, yet you're the least attached. That's kind of the
Hmm.
concept.
Okay, so sort of focusing on the journey and not the ends, kind of
Yeah,
a
kind
thing.
of. Yeah, it keeps you not needy because that was a huge principle. Not
Mm,
being needy, and these people said the more non-needy you are, the more attractive you become. Because anyone who you're interacting with, you can kind of sense that neediness when they're trying to become your friend for some kind of reason.
right.
It's
People might say desperate.
people can really detect it, and it kind of like um, disattracts them, kind of like repulses people when you feel like there's an agenda behind like all that they're doing in their interaction with you, right?
So when you've discovered this world almost, and you use the phrase underground pickup artist, so that's actually a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a formal term. I've never heard of that.
It's not formal, but it's like um, there's communities out there
Okay.
that there's like the dark side and like the light side of this stuff, right?
Okay.
As with like probably any school of knowledge, right? There's
Right,
like the
right.
dark sciences and like the good sciences. Because even like marketing could be pretty sociopathic.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
You take
definitely.
advantage of like the whole thing with like making social media very addictive. Like there's a science behind
Right,
that.
right.
So yeah, so it's yeah, social dynamics can be a tool for both good and not so good uses.
What was your impression when you stumbled across all these articles? Did you think this is what I've been looking for? Did you think, okay, this is kind of weird?
Um, it was kind of like it's like desperation, right? It's like you're how do I put it? Um, you're sifting through all this information, and of course, like a lot of it does not resonate with me. Um, so you have to kind of like extract the jewels because I'm sure many of us guys have the frustration of like, why does the bad guy get all the girls, right? And then there are some reasons because like these guys they show some kind of decisiveness which is valued. They have like spine and like a spine and teeth in a way, right? Which probably makes um, their partner feel protected, right? um, or they feel like they're more honest and genuine because even being nice that could be seen as very manipulative, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like you have some kind of agenda, you're saying this compliment and you're waiting for a reaction. um, and yeah, it's very it could be off-putting, right? Or you could genuinely say a compliment. So
So you had your red pill moment. You
mm,
have these tools under your belt now.
mm.
What was the next step for you? Did you just walk into the nearest bar?
Mm. So I was in a lot of different campus ministries
Okay.
because I want to find a someone who also loves Christ as much as I do, and we can pull each other
Hmm.
towards Him.
Hmm.
And so yeah, what did I do? Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, it wasn't like very like sudden boom, bam, boom, just, in a very organic way, pretty much. And then, eventually I would, see someone who I'm kind of interested in, get their social media. Um, I think everyone had Facebook back then. So yeah, message them, talk to them, or even just talk to them like during the dinner after the chapel that Thursday night or Wednesday night. Um, and Yeah, I even started some online dating. Uh, that was probably one of like my bigger venues of meeting new people. Um, and yeah, I couldn't apply all of these principles like perfectly, you know, being non-needy and being inside your head a lot. Um, yeah, because yeah, you feel a little bit inauthentic when you're kind of doing like this thing you read, right?
You're right.
It's
It's like
like,
a wiki how page and
yeah, it's like, okay, I'm gonna say the thing, zingy, 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 zingy. Is it gonna work? So there was a battle of like, applying these techniques and behaviors, and it was conflicting against my authenticity and congruence,
Mhm.
which is something that a lot of the good advice out there is to stay congruent. So I had to like internalize, like I wasn't used to flirting at all. Um, so I had to like study flirting, like as if it was a science. It's like,
Huh.
okay, self-deprecation humor, or okay, exaggerate, what this person you're dating is doing in a playful way, um, and yeah, I mean, I probably don't remember a lot of them, but yeah, or also role playing, like, oh, teacher student little dynamic, hee hee ha ha, play with that. So and some of these like behaviors and techniques I was able to kind of resonate with, like, oh yeah, I'm actually a pretty creative role playing, I like acting kind of guy. So yeah, role playing is pretty fun, like a little you and me against the world kind of frame. um and I'm like, yeah, okay. And then there's probably like there's like other like things that I read that were not resonating with me, like, oh, there's like um the they call it like the cocky kind of like humor. Um, so yeah, so there was a lot of sifting. So
So you really did break it down to a science.
yeah, had to.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel like growing up, I feel like I had some kind of degree of um, like Asperger's or something. So yeah, always mostly inside my head, so much to where like your awareness of like the social dynamics and outside world are
Mm,
kind of diminished or
right.
not as clear, because you can only focus on three things at a time, more or less, and two and a half of those were inside my head.
First of all, I just want to give you props because even in high school or college, I don't think I would have had the guts to even, as they say, slide into someone DMs or go on Facebook and or AOL Messenger someone. Um,
Or text them. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, even text somebody. As you were, I guess, implementing these techniques and experimenting with them, you hit on an interesting point about how that at times conflicted with a sense of authenticity.
Hmm.
So, what changes did you begin to see in yourself as you took these steps to be courageous?
Yeah. So, there's that axiom where you know the things you do externally influence the internal, and the internal, your thoughts and desires, they influence the external and the words, and they're
Hmm.
closely interconnected, and you're influenced from both sides. So even like there's something called like texting game. There's like there's like this techniques that maybe you guys encountered, where it's like, oh, you can't text them back right away. You gotta wait like as long as they waited.
Right.
You have to
Kind
like
of
match their interval, right?
kind of like the neediness.
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, right. Because like, this girl is gonna think that you've been waiting in the watches of the night for her to text back, it's like ding, oh hey, yeah, about that one thing. So that behavior is tied to, being a man on your purpose. So the
Hmm.
three things is, being a man of your purpose, being a man of freedom, and being grounded.
Hmm.
So when you're on your mission in life, you're not like staring at your phone all day, waiting for your crush to text you back. You're probably working on your podcast after work, or you're in the gym, or you're cooking, or doing something, right? And so that's kind of um, that kind of spells out the why someone would be elusive,
Hmm.
right? Or appear elusive. And so, yeah, I had to like match that at the same
So
time.
did you
So,
take up cooking or what was your plan there?
I was hitting the gym after work. Um, I don't think I did a lot of cooking. I was working on music. That took a lot of my time.
Nice.
Yeah, music and gym alone. Yeah, or just socializing with the bros. Um, so yeah, I was able to actually be legitimately um, appearing as elusive, while other people can fake it. Uh, yeah.
So that's the
So
purpose aspect, right?
mm,
Having a sense of purpose.
yeah.
Let's do the other two while you're at it. What do you
Mm.
mean by freedom?
So freedom, this is like a person who is not stifled. They're free in their expression. They're not controlled by outward pressures, either by your peers or society. You're not afraid to express yourself or do the thing that's fulfilling your mission in life. Um, freedom, yeah, that's kind of best of how I can describe it. And yeah, and that alone, creates a desirable trait in a partner, right? Um, unless you're both kind of controlled by the same pressures, then maybe you guys can get along in that way or try to overcome it together. Yeah, and groundedness. This is like you're able to hold your ground. Um, you're not easily swayed by um, again pressures. It's almost the same thing, I guess, but I guess it's the more defensive rather than offensive. You're able to stay focused on one thing, um, and what if like someone gave up their whole podcasting or their gym for one night just to like text someone that they like in a needy way, right? So yeah, groundedness. What else? Yeah, I think that's about groundedness right there. Not easily swayed. Um, kind of like that. What was that Bible verse? Do not be like, was it a baby tossed by the waves? Do you know? Remember?
James?
Yeah, James. Yeah, it was one of those verses. That kind of reminds me of groundedness. It's being able to sleep through a storm.
It stands out to me that the
Mm,
opposite of neediness are these three
mm,
things you mentioned: groundedness, freedom, and purpose.
mm,
Because initially I would think, oh, the opposite of neediness is just complete autonomy, right?
mm,
Not being affected at all by anyone else, which is not what I hear you saying. What I hear you saying
mm,
is you obviously, if if I like somebody,
mm,
they will affect my desires and emotions and thoughts.
mm.
But I guess having that awareness, it sounds like what you're saying, for it not to consume your entire life.
Pretty much, yeah.
And
Yeah. Because lust could be like a very competing desire that you can be influenced by, for example.
how did you find that balance then? Was it just as simple as, okay, I I know I want to stay and text this person like you mentioned,
Mm.
but instead I will hit the gym and do it later, kind of a just
Right. Yeah. At first, it felt gimmicky. It's like, oh, like I really want to text this girl back right now, But like, for the sake of like, it felt really gimmicky for a while, and then you just kind of like, yeah, it's your purpose just becomes more internalized,
Hmm.
um, because the whole goal is not to find love, and that's the whole end of it. It's to ultimately, like for me personally, love God, know him more, make him known,
Hmm.
and you're rowing your boat in that direction.
Hmm.
And if a partner comes and rows your their boat, her boat in that same direction, you bump into each other. Hey, cool, you guys could help row with each other in that direction. Um,
What was the result in your dating life in college then? Was it a lot different than high school? Or
yeah,
I guess high school would have been non-existent.
mhm. Yeah. This was probably up towards the tail and probably the last third of my college years. Was Yeah, I never had a girlfriend in college. It was only until like my second year of like working at a job, my first job. Um, yeah, I had some like other 7 year long crushes in college, and it was called these this article called it one nightus.
Okay.
It's like it's a disease. You're focused on one person, and it's like, oh, if I
Hmm.
can't have this one person, or yada yada, right? You're so focused on, and there's never been a time where, or never been a story I've ever heard in anyone's life where it worked out when they kind of pedestalized and idealized this one person, right?
Hmm. I think that happens a lot.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to learn how to, it's called nexting, like next, It's
Okay.
like, okay, they're not interested, because you want to find someone who's interested in you, because that's also, self-respect, and it's also a better use of your time and efforts and energy,
Right.
investing in someone who wants to invest in you. Uh, yeah, so I learned that. Yeah, never dated in college, and it was probably a good thing. Um, yeah, God saved me from a lot of, relationships that were, not going to be good for me,
Hmm.
looking back at it in hindsight. And, yeah.
Oh, I blanked on my question. This happens a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
I tend to like just talk a lot and then kind of forget where I was talking about. And then I try to trail off the dot, dot, dot. I'm like, oh, where was I? I'm
no,
like
I'm
lost in this
getting really
bubble.
into your story, that's why.
Uh, yeah.
Um, oh, I'm
Mhm.
curious. Did anyone know you were doing this? Like
Oh,
your friends and family members, like Keith has been flirty, but in a different way, like
oh.
around women or anything like that.
Yeah, it was only a few friends, I would say.
Okay.
And I would low key like try to recruit them a little bit in some way. Not really recruit, but almost some kind of like, you know, it was like an evangelism effort. Like, it's like,
Like as wingmen or
as like, because like a lot of my friends, they kind of have the same problem. They've been single their whole life, and like I don't even know like they're like if they're trying to date actively, or you know. So it was like I've found like this pot of gold, and I know where it is, and like, but it's kind of like shining a green laser through like a red lens. Like it doesn't hit them at all. They just don't understand it. I would even show them like a little bit of something that I thought was like really helpful for me, and then they'll see it as like, this is like, you know this person talking on YouTube is trying to manipulate me to buy their program or something.
okay. So you were trying to share the red pill.
Yeah, I was trying to share the red pill, but it's like everyone's kind of in the blue pill or something. Uh, yeah, so after a while, I just kind of, um, yeah, it's kind of learned. So that also made me learn like, okay, not everyone is like, wants to, learn social dynamics in a way. They're kind of like
Right.
they, I don't know what the reasons are, but maybe they really like their mode of being or something. Yeah, for one or more reasons, right? But I did have other friends that were, yeah, one close friend of mine, he actually, I guess I only like knew like maybe just some level, but then this guy like brought more kind of knowledge in the social awareness, and he was actually a friend who was like willing to wound. Um, a friend's wound is better than an enemy's kiss,
Hmm.
and so he was able to like call me out on like my weird behaviors. Like apparently I had like a listening problem. I had like no idea. It's like then he made me realize like, oh gee, I'm a pretty bad listener, because I'm like always stuck in my head.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like 90% of like my CPU and bandwidth is like focused on myself or some random idea that doesn't relate to this situation in the present moment.
Okay. So you almost had to learn how to get out of yourself, get out of your
Yeah, it
head.
was a getting out of myself kind of transformation as well.
Huh.
And I guess that also kind of connects to like being non-needy. You're better able to relinquish yourself from a lot of negative emotions and free up a lot of internal CPU and bandwidth that is spent on like self-judgment fatigue or decision-making fatigue.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you're better able to just focus on other people and listen to them fully and be present.
How does one do that? How does one stop thinking about themselves only?
Mm, yeah, that's how's one stop? It's almost kind of it could almost be meditative in a way, you know. There's a whole thing of like, meditations, like, oh, focus on your breathing and feel the toes touching the ground and the ground touching the bottom of your feet. But in a social way, right? It's like, what are these other people feeling? Or and that takes a lot of practice and training, because you're like if you're trained your whole life to just think about yourself and be stuck inside your head,
Hmm.
if you're conditioned that way, it's like very incredibly difficult to come out of your fundamental temperament.
Hmm.
So I would say, yeah, just practice with maybe, um, yeah, I wouldn't know how to train people to increase their empathy. It's a good question. Um, but yeah, I think just being aware is the first step, that you could be more, you know, aware of others, aware of other people, right?
Right.
So,
And I think one thing I want to point out is obviously there are a lot of men like us,
mhm.
and there are a lot of men who have different issues when it comes to romance and relationships.
Yeah. Mhm.
But hopefully, this interview so far has been helpful for the listener who does have that me as well moment that I had when I first heard your story. Zooming out a little bit to just the broader dating environment that we're in right now, specifically in the United States. I mean, there's so many types of dating culture that we wouldn't even be able to touch on all of it. And as Christians, I think I'm very unfamiliar with, like you said, hookup culture or things like that. But where do you feel like dating culture is going right now? Do you feel like guys today have the same issues that you had? Are you experiencing that a lot? I had a friend who thinks that people actually are becoming more shy and afraid to date than ever,
Oh yeah.
even though Hollywood and media and pop culture is showing these very bold men who go to bars and they're confident and they're wearing clothes that makes them feel confident, that it's quite the opposite right
Mhm.
now in general in society. Do you have a
Mhm.
take on that?
Yeah. A lot of it's gone virtual. Um, with the whole online dating apps. And I've even I don't know, because like I think it's been a lot different over 5 years. It's like maybe it's gotten to where because like it was almost kind of pathological to start with. Like it's like okay, dating app is almost like ordering a pizza, right? It's like, oh, I want blue eyes, tall, whatever, right?
Right.
Um, so you just kind of lose out on the human to human kind of interaction. Now it's become more like consumer to consumer, and
Hmm.
that's kind of the growing trend. Yeah, even with like uh, yeah, even people who are cohabitating, um, it's like there's also a consumer mindset in there,
Hmm.
right? It's like, oh, I gotta like, test drive the relationship first,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So it's
I
like,
never thought of it like that.
yeah, but the thing is, like, this is a human, this is not a car. So that's why divorce rates are really high among people who have cohabitated because it kind of comes down to yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to articulate it, but that consumer mindset, like, okay, is this person serving all my needs? Am I serving all this person's needs?
Hmm.
Becomes kind of, but then it's like, what if they're no longer funny or something? Then it's just over.
That box isn't checked anymore.
Yeah, right. And then so yeah, it's you're not really committing to this person as a whole person. It's just kind of like I'm here for these things, and if I'm not getting these things, then I'm out of here. And I think that's the driving mindset behind the cohabitation.
Hmm.
Um, but the whole shy thing, why that's increased, um,
And that was
hmm.
just my friend's hypothesis.
Oh yeah, I think it's an epidemic where
Okay.
there's a lot of men who are not encouraged. Um,
Not encouraged.
yeah, they lack encouragement in their life.
Okay.
Yeah, um, from what I've heard from you know videos and psychologists. I forget why. Not the expert, but why they're more shy. Yeah, yeah, that's a whole different topic that I wouldn't know too much about.
But you do
Mm-hmm.
feel that
Mm-hmm.
the dating world is slowly trending that way.
Um, maybe there could be a whole little revival of like people leaving their virtual devices and going out to meet people, but maybe I don't really see that happening since I think a lot of people, I'm sure the pandemic kind of did something, right? Where everyone was just kind of, I felt like I lost some social skills, you know, being in the pandemic. Like when I was
Yeah.
working remotely, like I'd rarely talk to anyone, and I haven't
Right.
feel like I haven't said a word in like months to anyone. And only like during meetings for like a couple minutes,
Right, right.
or
God forbid you have to turn on
yeah,
your camera.
mhm, mhm. Or just talk to like my family here and there.
Right.
But to strangers, yeah, it's just kind of dwindling.
Right, especially strangers, just
Mhm,
walking up to somebody, introducing yourself.
mhm. Yeah, yeah,
If it weren't for this podcast, I'd probably have I'm sure the pandemic would have obliterated my social skills. So
yeah, yeah. It's a muscle, so yeah. Pandemic accelerated it, but I don't know what other trend there would be. Video games, but there's a lot of gamers that socialize, and not sure what it is. Maybe it's just kind of family patterns out there. Um, yeah.
so right now you're in your mid 30s.
Mhm.
When you look around at your peers, are most of them married, most of them single? I know you said you run in certain circles, or you did, where there were a lot of single men.
Hmm.
How about now?
I would say about a quarter of us maybe are in relationships, maybe a quarter or a third.
Okay.
I haven't done a pie chart calculation yet. Could be half.
You
I don't
haven't
know.
scrolled through all your Facebook
Yeah,
contacts and looked at.
could be half, two thirds. I don't know,
Okay.
but definitely some significant fraction of single friends. Yeah, but maybe it's been less. Yeah, as I get older, because that's kind of the age where people start pairing up, and it's a little harder to find dating partners the
Hmm.
older you get.
Hmm.
From hear.
This was a topic that was brought up in another interview, but the idea of a third place being not home or work, that you're able to meet and socialize other people, and the lack of a third place. I should have looked it up so I could cite
Mm,
it. I could
mm,
cite it in the notes, but especially for a non-Christian or non-religious person who isn't consistently going to Sunday service or Wednesday
oh
community
yeah. Mhm.
groups, I can totally see that. The lack of a third place.
Right. Lack of consistent community.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes. Where I mean, at work, I think it very much is possible, and people are
Yeah. Mhm.
finding more and more now the importance of work community.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Um, but in general, I think it is difficult. And I see that difference just because I am a Christian and I go to church every week. And
Mhm.
that's, I would say that's where 90% of my social group is from.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel like I haven't invested a lot of like um, I guess like friendship and relationship energy in like engaging with like coworkers outside of work
Hmm.
because I gotta have my circles and church community as well to spend that time during the week with. So it's a little challenging.
Was there anything else we've missed regarding what the opposite of neediness is? You mentioned those three things. For you, was there any other characteristic or trait that you found really turned things around
Mm,
as you started dating actively?
I think giving value.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's a deep topic. Um, so when you're connected to some kind of source, like purpose, for me, knowing God, loving God, making Him known. So when you're connected to some kind of purpose, um, you become like a fountain, right?
Hmm.
And because you're not like a beggar, kind of like having like an empty cup, and you're kind of like going around hoping like a crush will fill up your cup, or somebody,
I like that
yeah.
image.
So yeah, giving value. Yeah, like even in like a social interaction or friendship.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, maybe you're just out there, just um, there ought to be some kind of level of self amusement. It's like you're doing things that make you laugh, but yet there's a Venn diagram of like, what's what was it? It's like so authentic to you and relatable to others,
Okay.
and there needs to be that intersection, right?
Huh.
So you're maybe cracking yourself up that's relatable to other people, and and there's also something called the law of straight state transference, where how you feel, other people will feel. You ever notice when you're like ordering, a Starbucks drink, right? And you have like for me, my default is to have like this very heavy energy, like my eyebrows be really really furrowed and concentrated, and I'll be ordering a drink like this, and then the cashier will be like mirroring the same emotion, like, oh yeah, okay, you want some of that latte or something, right? You guys ever notice that? Like, that's why laughter is contagious, yawning is contagious. Like, oh, this person's tired, let me check, am I tired? And that's kind of like how us humans are wired, right? They call those mirror neurons. And maybe like thousands of years ago, that was used for like, let's say you were just suddenly freaked out right now, and because there was a lion right there about to eat us.
Right.
And if I didn't have those mirror neurons, I'd be like, huh? Like, what are you afraid of? I'd be asking you questions, and then I'd be eaten. So that's why we have those mirror neurons. And where was I going with this? Like providing value. um, yeah, just being positive and assertive,
Hmm.
like simultaneously, is something that provides value. It's like, hey, want a pizza? Let's go get some pizza, or um, yeah, or yeah, it's kind of how I could best articulate it,
Hmm.
but it's another deep topic.
Right. To I'm hearing to act in a way that is contagious to others, but obviously
Mhm.
positive.
Yeah, positive or yeah, something or yeah, maybe you're also kind of you could match the state of other people.
Hmm.
Um and yeah, um yeah, deep topic.
Now I know that Keith has a RBF when he goes order a Starbucks
Yeah, if I'm like
drink.
in the middle of like trying to solve a problem while I'm ordering a drink, I'll probably have that kind of face. I'm not gonna focus on the cashier. I'm like how he's like, oh, like, hey man, how's your day? So yeah, I guess that's another thing, of way of providing value. It's like why do people say how are you? Hi, how are you?
Hmm.
Like what does that really mean? It's like it's I think what it's really saying is like I'm good. How are you doing? Are you good? Right? Because like
Okay.
maybe
Okay.
your taxi's kind of like could be grumpy and I'm trying to remember the example. Um, yeah, never mind. I forget the example, but
Yeah, I get what you're saying though, because usually, oh, we'll leave it. Usually, people don't ask how are you if they're in a bad mood. And
right.
so it automatically, if someone asks you how are you doing, it comes from a place of at least some empathy. I mean, some people do it just as a formality, I'm
That
sure,
too,
and
yeah.
I've done that.
Mm,
But that's a good point.
yeah. Mm, yeah, the whole fountain concept, right?
Right. You brought up the word assertive,
Mm,
and this is something that has been a theme in my life since the pandemic started.
mm,
I started consistently going to therapy when the pandemic started. I mean, honestly, I don't know who didn't.
mm,
To
mm,
some extent, whether
mm,
it's therapy with your friends or therapy through a professional. And he, I remember he clarified the difference between aggressive and assertive.
mm,
And my therapist drew out a spectrum of how it was passive and aggressive on the ends, and assertive was actually the perfect balance in the middle. And it was surprising to me because up to that point, I thought of assertive as sort of more aggressive,
mm,
right? I didn't really think of the word assertive as a positive term or a
mm,
positive trait, but he described how being assertive has an element of being considerate, but at
mm,
the same time, you're not letting yourself just get run over.
yeah.
You're not just lying on the ground, allowing others to take advantage of you.
Mm,
And that was big for me because I think I grew up with a lot of negative examples of aggressiveness, and seeing now that the proper reaction isn't to, going back to your story, the proper reaction isn't to, okay, if a girl likes me, I do whatever the heck she wants me to do.
mm,
It is, how am I retaining my own identity, purpose, groundedness, freedom,
yeah.
while also exercising kindness? And that's
Mm,
where I think the fountain is really interesting,
mm,
because you joked that the good guy, not the nice guy, the
mm,
good guy isn't walking around with a cup wanting it to be filled,
mm,
but rather his cup is filled.
yeah. Mm,
And that's what makes him attractive.
yeah. Mm,
And I really I like that analogy.
mm,
So I'm the listener is wanting to know, I'm sure, what has happened since,
mm,
and you have some big news.
mm,
You're engaged now.
yeah. Mm,
Um,
mm,
yeah, what's the summary of, I guess now that would be like your 20s or late 20s until now.
mm.
How has all this kind of culminated?
Yeah. So, one more thing I wanted to say on your
Sure.
thing about assertiveness is, yeah, providing value. I'm trying to remember what it was. Um, uh, assertiveness. Fountain. I think it might have left me. um,
This just happened to me, so I get it.
yeah. I'm gonna take a long cut on this one.
Or I'll leave it in with some music.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So you're saying like assertive and passive
The spectrum,
and
aggressive.
yeah, value providing. Oh yeah, that's right. I think providing value is just being considerate also.
Hmm.
That was what I wanted to say. Yeah. So back to your other question, where we're at now. So I mean, all this was kind of like pretty internalized by the time I was, doing a lot of online dating and past my college years and learning a lot through my first relationship also.
Hmm.
Even more self-awareness of like, never being in a relationship before. And yeah, and having learning from all that. So yeah, so I think it was just deeply internalized by the time I found my now fiance, and I met her at a my friend's wife's birthday party, and yeah, so she was there at the party, and we just had a normal interaction with like four people there in a group, just talking about music. And then added her on social media later. We had a warm enough connection, mutual friends, and having met. And then yeah, we were just in each other's proximity for a while, and then we respond to each other's stories on. Well, I think I would respond to her stories more. But she liked one of my posts about Jesus, and that gave me the green light to just start messaging her a little more. You know, like, oh, are those your doggos, or or oh, happy Thanksgiving, and Merry Christmas, and then that slowly, you know, built a little. They call that behavior pinging. So it's like,
The little comments and
yeah,
things like that.
a little comment, it's like when you're at the gym and you see this girl you like, pinging is like, oh, it's like how many sets do you have left or something, and now you're no longer the stranger, you're the person
Right. So it's
who.
not necessarily explicitly
Mhm.
flirtatious.
Yeah, it's a ping.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's a good subtle, non-forward way to express interest, or just having someone in your proximity. Um,
So by the time
yeah.
you're at this party, are all your strategies in full gear, or is it pretty natural by this point?
It's pretty funny because like when you meet your the love of your life, it's not like, okay, got my A game. I got my A game
Got the
here. All
notepad.
right, got all my techniques. Here we go. It's just you're kind of just being yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
Well said.
yeah, with a little mixture of like canned material, probably it's like okay, but it's also um, something that's a social dance in a way, right?
Right.
Pinging someone, messaging them directly, and yeah, we were talking about music because that's one topic we had in common, and then that just kind of evolved into yeah, meeting her up and giving her some of my piano books that I have in my house that are
All right. All right.
for what I learned piano off of.
Very smooth.
Mhm. Yeah, so we met at Meet Fresh and walked around UCLA during the pandemic, um, at like I think it was like a 50% chance of rain, so we braved the elements anyways, and that was just kind of like a quasi date meetup.
Okay.
And then we had a couple more quasi dates, and then after that, I officially asked her out on a date.
Okay.
Um,
How did you feel?
um, this was just natural because I've asked people on a date and you know made clear my intentions.
Hmm.
I was very used to clarifying my intentions at the time. It wasn't like, oh, it's like a really big major moment for me. Here we go. It was just kind of like, hey, I want to see where this goes, and test the chemistry.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so we turned into official dates, and then eventually became boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah, May of 2021,
Nice.
and yeah, and the whole man of purpose and groundedness and freedom just kind of continues that throughout your life.
Hmm.
and yeah, now we're engaged, and that's kind of my journey.
Congrats on the engagement.
Thank you.
Is she aware of all these stories regarding the internet strategies and all of this?
Yeah, she
Okay.
knows a degree of the story.
Okay.
Maybe not to this depth, but she knows.
Okay. What are the biggest differences between that Keith that just asked your current fiance out and Keith, whatever, 15, 20 years ago?
Hmm. I think my desires are more properly ordered, the hierarchically. Um, because like I'm sure like a lot of teenage boys have all these competing desires.
Hmm.
I gave that example of you're probably made of like 20 to 40 people, and they're just inside you, and they're just kind of competing. You have like the hungry side of you that wants to go eat right now, and maybe that person's going to take control of your whole body, kind of like inside out, and
Yeah, yeah.
that person might become angry, and but then you have like this other person inside you that wants to maintain like friendships and peace and relationships if that person's inside you. They might have a war, and then you have like the lust person inside you that just it has a bunch of physical and biological desires and will do anything to accomplish that. And
Hmm.
so there's layers. There's like the low level layers, and there's like the high level layers, and you have to properly order them. And
Hmm.
I think right now they're more properly ordered than they were in high school. Like being cool was like a very important, like probably high in the hierarchy, right?
Yeah, I mean, at 15 years old, that's the goal.
Yeah, being cool. Yeah, that was the yeah. Um, but yeah, properly orient and integrate your desires. Yeah, that's how you become, yeah, man of purpose.
Is there anything we missed?
I could just take a quick look at my little
Sure.
notes here. I was kind of sketching it this weekend, just to get my brain going. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, there's just deeper topics of like how to date online and message. Yeah, those are pretty funny. It's like
Yeah, what is that about?
so I would give my friends some advice on their dating profile. There's like 6 characteristics, so it's like okay, apparently they did a study on like these dating profiles, and the guy who is not looking at the camera and not smiling gets more hits than someone who's like directly smiling, look at the camera like that.
Really?
Yeah, so maybe that gives a signal of non-neediness.
Oh, okay.
And subconsciously we don't know, right? And there's also having a cute thing in your profile, like a cat or a dog or a baby or
Oh, okay.
something, you know a cute picture, right?
Okay.
And you doing something interesting is also important to have in your dating profile picture. And also having they said having a slightly cropped out girl in your picture. And I guess that gives like social proof, and oh, I can feel safe around this person because this person has like a group of friends. Maybe girls like this person.
Okay. That's interesting because
Yeah,
like obviously you'd want them to be single.
yeah. Well, maybe it shouldn't be you and a slightly cropped out girl. It should be maybe a group of people and you and a slightly cropped out girl.
Okay.
I don't know,
Okay. Just two people on either side.
something
One of
that
them's female.
yeah, yeah. These articles were interesting. And then they said what did they say? Um, yeah, I mean, those are the ones that I kind of considered. And then they said one with abs. I'm like, really? It's kind of like,
Like a shirtless picture?
yeah, something that shows your physique. I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. It didn't resonate with me. So, so during the time, it's like, okay. I'll set up these qualities here. I guess there's some kind of signals, underlying subconscious signals behind like the pattern of these. It's like, you and like, a cat or something shows that you're empathetic or something, right? That, or you're like animals. So I don't know.
Okay, wow. So this is,
Yeah.
I mean, this is truly a science.
Yeah. Someone collected
Wow.
the data. Yeah, pretty soon. And there's also personal statements. So they say, have at least one, reveal like a vulnerable trait about you.
Okay.
So you give out the signal that like you don't think you're Mr. Perfect.
Hmm.
You're self-aware, and
Okay.
you're working on yourself. And
Right.
so, for me, I said like I'm inside my head a lot, but I'm trying to become more present to the moment.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think showing vulnerability
Hmm.
is a good trait you ought to people ought to have.
I'll be playing this clip for friends who
Mm.
are starting their dating profiles,
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
and they'll have to give Keith credit when they get married.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I helped my friend with his online dating. Like for some reason he thought he couldn't like have a girlfriend until he bought a car because he had like some creepy like soccer mom van, and he had like the soccer mom hair to go with it. So I'm like, bro, just don't take yourself too seriously. Just say like, hey, this is my soccer mom van, you know, and just, don't take yourself too seriously. You're not
Right.
James Bond, and I think it's good. I'm not sure how to describe why it's good, to just not take yourself so seriously, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, yeah.
There's an element in a lot of what you've said that points to, I think, being comfortable in your own skin, right? Like
That
your
too,
friend,
yeah.
like your friend, be
Being
okay with
secure.
his hair, right?
No, yeah, right,
And how being vulnerable is good, but being too self-degrading isn't,
right.
and how there's that balance there.
Mhm.
And when I tell the story of when I first started dating my now wife, I remember it was summer before junior year, and I chose to stay at an apartment near college instead of going back to live with my parents.
Mm.
And it was very much a summer of like independence, autonomy, that sort of a thing. And when I look back at that summer, I think one of the huge changes that occurred was I was feeling more and more okay with myself, with who I
Mm.
was. And specifically, I remember being okay with being single.
Mm.
And so I'm not saying this is the secret to finding love or finding somebody, but I really was, before that, maybe I kind of convinced myself I was okay. But that summer, I really was okay with being single.
Mm.
And then call it Providence or my actions, probably both. That paved the way, I think,
Mm.
ultimately for a relationship to happen.
Your cup overflowed
Yes,
at
honestly.
that summer.
Yeah, my cup was full and I
Yeah,
was ready.
you filled your cup, and therefore you're ready.
Yeah.
So
And so
okay.
it's the ironic thing where working on yourself, um, as I think you've said in many different ways, creates the attractiveness,
Mm.
creates the kind of person that somebody else would want to be with.
Yeah, you gotta fully kind of set up and build your kingdom before you invite people into it.
Mm,
You're kind of a nation in a kingdom. Like, do you have like open borders where like everyone's just kind of flooding into there, or is it just like a very exclusive kind of kingdom where it's like, okay, like yeah. Also, that's another dating profile advice. Like, you have to have some screening statements and filters. Like, you can't have like it's so broad and generic where you lose your it's not uniqueness, but you kind of lose your focus on your purpose, right? Like, hey, I'm looking for this and this,
mm,
and I'm avoiding this. And then it creates an authentic connection when you do that,
mm,
instead of just kind of opening your net really wide and matching with whoever, and kind of being a shape shifting chameleon just to find like a girlfriend in a needy way.
right. Man, thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah.
That was really good. You got a lot of dating knowledge or strategies, I should say.
Yeah, thank you for creating a venue to share. And yeah, awesome.
So this is a new thing that I'm trying to implement this year in the podcast, but it's just rapid fire end of episode questions.
Hmm.
What is your favorite book right now?
Book right now. I haven't been reading books in a while. I was doing audiobooks. The last one. Favorite book. Okay, yeah, I remember. It's called Desiring God by John Piper.
Okay.
And that was also a very life transforming moment for me because there was this whole dichotomy of like pursuit of happiness and honoring God, and they felt like two separate paths. And then that was kind of a great coming together for me.
Hmm.
So that was probably a really important formation of my purpose.
Okay. I've heard of that. And
Yeah,
his website is called Desiring God, right?
that too. Yeah,
God. Okay. Are you
yeah.
more and I probably know this answer, but are you more of a coffee guy or a tea guy?
I was tea and became more coffee after my friend in college. He's a coffee roaster, and he just opened up this whole. He was kind of like this Aladdin of like showing me the whole world of coffee, like the cup matters, and like there's different notes and there's different roasts, like light, medium, and dark, and their different properties, and there was this whole like coffee flavor wheel of like you start in the middle and you start expanding out like, oh, is it a nut, is it a vegetal, is it sugary or something, and you go into stone fruit like, oh, it's an apricot, okay.
Oh
And
wow.
that increased my appreciation for coffee. Yeah, I think I'm more of a coffee person.
That is a really good reason. And I was wrong. I assumed you were a tea guy.
Yeah, I love tea for it has a lot of like health properties. I know black tea is good for your skin. Chrysanthemum, I forget, it's good for your liver, and green tea is good for your hair. So that's kind of like a little health nut, trying different teas.
On a Friday evening where you're available, would you rather stay in or go out?
Oh, almost a combination of both, just going to
Okay.
someone's house and staying in their place. I'm sure it's changed a lot. Being in your 20s, you just want to go out and go do different things. Um, you but nowadays, kind of like staying in's nice because
Okay.
you've worked all week and you yeah, kind of just want to work on my game. But I also kind of miss people. And being in your 30s, they say that your friends decrease, but your house plants increase. So you're
Oh.
kind of missing your friends. So I might be more on second thought, like going out with friends. It's so rare now. Everyone's
Hmm.
busy. Yeah.
Last question. How many days do you wait before you finally throw leftovers out?
Oh, depends on the food. But I'm tend towards as late as possible. Maybe day five and a half.
5.5. Okay. That's a good middle ground for me, honestly. I know
Yeah.
people who are longer.
Oh yeah. Depends on the food too. Some foods spoil fast.
Awesome. Thanks for being the first person to survive my rapid fire
Yeah.
questions.
Some people haven't.
Oh, you're the first.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is your first time doing the questions.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, cool.
A new thing this year.
All right.
So we'll see how it goes. Thanks again.
Yeah, good idea.
Keith just gave me a very firm handshake.
Very assertive.